This is Andy Purwolf, Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Caught you slightly off guard there, ready when I started.
You've got a light, really bright light in my face. So yeah, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. Did you have a good journey up?
I did, yeah. I was been up, had a couple of meetings up north, and then here, and back tonight for potential purse bid, which you're going to probably talk to me about in a minute, and then ready to head off to America next week for meetings and Rungvisai Quadras. So all go.
A couple of meetings up north. Can you tell me what they were about?
No, nothing that's gonna. What do you think they were?
They might be making fights. I don't know.
Oh, I'm always making fights. Nothing that's gonna give you some money from YouTube.
Had to ask. Eddie, obviously we're here in Leeds today. Martinez, Warrington too. They fought 5 years ago, Eddie. When you look at the trajectory of both of their careers, it's amazing how they've come full circle, coming back together now. What are you expecting when they clash in their rematch?
I'm expecting a great fight. I mean, the first one was a great fight, but there's a lot more unknowns this time around, isn't it? I mean, look, it was November 13th, November 17th, November 10th, when Kiko just produced one of the most sensational upsets and comebacks that I've ever seen, knocking out Kid Galahad. And we had a promotional option on Kiko. We talked about the Kid Galahad fight. He wanted that. He also knew he has to move up in weight. Kiko didn't really want that. Kiko wanted Josh Warrington. And it wasn't that it was more money. He just said, I beat him before, and this time I know I'll knock him out. And now you look at the fight a little bit differently, don't you? Josh Warrington at the time when he boxed Kiko was arguably number one featherweight in the world. He looked like he might be unbeatable at the time. Now, because of the Lara defeat, there are question marks. And I think people in boxing, and obviously Kiko Martinez, thinks that he's vulnerable. And Kiko comes in with a lot of confidence. So this opportunity was not something we expected to be able to present to Josh Warrington. It was really down to Kiko. And now, Josh, what he really wants to do is go to America and have a big fight. But now he's got a chance to do that with a belt. And that becomes a lot easier to make those kind of fights.
Josh has had some tough fights throughout his career, as has Kiko, and when you consider the Mauricio Lara bouts, granted one of them ended very, very quickly due to the clash, but is there a worry about him in terms of his punch resistance now because of the wars that he's had throughout his career?
Well, there was never a worry about Josh Warrington's punch resistance till he boxed Mauricio Lara, who was unfortunately a huge puncher who came from the unknown. And was that Mauricio Lara punches very, very hard, or was that because Josh has been in all those wars? I'll tell you what, you'll find out against Kiko Martinez, because he hits maybe just as hard as Mauricio Lara, and you saw that in the Kid Galahad fight. So Josh feels, Sean feels, everybody feels that it's the same Josh Warrington, but you just don't know. What we know is 9,000 people in Leeds will find out that night on March 26th if Josh can make history and become a two-time world champion, or if it's the end of the road. But they're two guys towards the back end of their career, and they've both got the same plan, which is win this fight and go and unify in a massive fight. And as I said, it is worrying that Kiko was adamant that this was the fight he wanted. So, maybe, I'm sure you'll talk to him today, maybe he feels like he's got his number.
How did Kid Galahad feel about stepping aside for this?
I think at first, the initial conversations were that he needs to move up in weight. Then, I think once defeat had sort of kicked in, he wanted the rematch. Kiko wasn't mad on a rematch, wanted to do it in Spain. The money was poor for Kid Galahad. And I said to him, I think all this stuff lends towards moving up and try and become a two-weight world champion. And I think, he's taken that on board. I think he'll be a much better fighter at super featherweight. And we've got a cracking little fight we're looking to make for him on the Conlan Wood card as well. So, and then we've got Ogawa, we've got Cordina, we've got Barrett. So I think I can get him that shot at a world title at super featherweight. And he, I see him on the scales for the Kiko fight. I saw him on the scales for the Jazz Dickens fight. He shouldn't be boxing at feather anymore. But it's very hard. Pride will tell you, no, I want it. So it's a new chapter for him.
Eddie, moving through the card, saw some of the fights announced earlier. Maxi was defending his IBO title against Ryan Walsh. Great fight.
Really good fight. And I've got to be honest, it wasn't a fight that I was looking at. And we was looking at international opponents. And Lee Eaton dropped a line into our matchmaker and said, what about Ryan Walsh? Great fight, domestic fight, bring a load of support as well. And I thought, the names we were looking at, you wouldn't have heard of them. Good fighters, but why not make it against a Brit? And Maxi Hughes against Ryan Walsh is a really, really good fight. IBO World Lightweight title. And although we talk about the IBO title, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to them, I don't recognise it as a major world title. It is extremely valuable in terms of its stature of getting on the ladder to that conversation. And Maxi Hughes is probably looking at that saying, well, if a Devin Haney, if a Kambosos, if a Lomachenko, if a Tank are struggling to fight another champion, I'll put my hand up every time, and Ryan Walsh can now get in that mix.
Maxi was adamant he wanted a big fight after his success last time out. Ryan Walsh may not be the name he wanted, but when will that big fight come? Is it the next one after Ryan if he's successful?
He can want what he wants, and we will always push as hard as we can for him. But the reality is, you have to be chosen in your position, right? And sometimes you get the beautiful call, and sometimes you don't. But what you need to do is stay active, stay busy, put in good performances, and keep banging on the door. He's now just an unbelievable turnaround of events for his career, and if he can beat Ryan Walsh, I believe he'll land that big fight. Look at Michael Mickinson. He's a great example of someone that's been banging on the door, couldn't get big fights. He got a fight and a payday well beyond what we hoped to even get him. He's fighting Virgil Ortiz for a fortune. So that's just a sign. Keep winning, try and look good, and those big opportunities will come.
Ebony Bridges versus Maria Cecilia, talk to me about that one.
Really tough fight. I mean, I've got to say well done to Ebony Bridges because, she's built an unbelievable fan base here, right? As I keep saying about Ebony is, once you get to know her, you realise how serious she is about boxing. You see all the jokey stuff, but her life is dedicated to boxing. She could do what she wants. She could have an easy 10-rounder, she wants to fight for a world title. Cecilia Roman is arguably the best fighter in the division. Very, very tough. Comes forward, all action. It's going to be a tremendous fight. But listen, for Ebony, good luck. She's got a world title fight in Leeds, and it's a massive moment for her. We got Jamie Mitchell in the division as well, fighting Carly Skelly. You got Shannon Courtney supposed to rematch the winner. Shannon Courtney against Ebony Bridges is a big fight as well. So good luck. It's a very hard task, but she's got it. She's got it in Leeds, and she can fight. She can crack.
Dalton Smith returning in Yorkshire as well.
Yeah, good fight. I mean, look, I don't like to put people in it, but we'd agreed for him to fight Kay Prosper, and then we just heard literally in the last 24 hours that fight is no longer going to happen, which was disappointing. We expected to announce that today. That's the kind of fight we want to move Dalton Smith in. We want Maxwell for the British title. We want the board to order that. That's a great fight for Dalton Smith, and he will be defending his championship here in Leeds on March 26th, and we're looking for a real opponent because this kid is a fantastic talent.
May I ask what happened with the Prosper fight?
Don't know, to be honest with you. The management all confirmed the fight was done, and then we just got a message to say that Prosper won't be taking the fight. So I don't know the ins and outs, but that's the level where we want to be up against next.
Eddie, on to a topic you mentioned earlier, knowing I would bring it up. Yeah. Fury White purse bids. Are we all set?
I believe so. I mean, look, these are the times where the sometimes the most productive conversations happen, because if you're the Fury side and you're the A side, you're looking at this going, we don't want to lose this purse bid. I have no idea if we'll win the purse bid. We'll be very aggressive for Dillian Whyte. I'm sure there'll be conversations this morning. It's 6 p.m. is, I think, the purse bid time. We've paid our money and we're ready to go. But anything can happen, honestly.
When you say anything can happen, is there any chance of revisiting the whole, Usyk, AJ step aside, what have you?
Fury's made it clear that, I see all his Instagram stuff, laughy, but he's actually the one that didn't want to fight Usyk. I saw all his stuff. You let that Ukrainian, I'm going to have to go back. Well, you didn't want to. You wanted an interim fight. So that's the decision he's made. He's the one that's lost all that money. I don't know. I'm baffled. But anyway, that's what's happening. And if he wants to fight Dillian Whyte, brilliant. We'll proceed with that. Win or lose the purse bid, that fight will happen. And I believe Dillian Whyte can win that fight, especially with everything that's gone on, because it clouds the brain. It really does. And but as I said, I'm sure there'll be, at this stage, there's always a conversation before the bid between myself, Bob Arum, whoever, and says, ready? Are we doing this? Because you don't want to lose the bid. Not for us. At the moment, we're on 20%. And it's difficult to win a bid when you're on 20% because you can't, people take this word differently, manipulate the bid. You could go to Tyson Fury, agree a purse with him before the purse bid, and you can bid over that amount, and it'll only cost you 20%, if that makes sense. So, we'll have a good go. It'll be a lot of fun to win it.
Do you think yourself and Frank could end up in the same room on that occasion, if Fury, provided Fury White goes ahead, press conference, yourself and Frank in the same room?
No problem. Listen, I'd love to promote that fight. I mean, it's worth paying the money to get to promote it, to be the lead promoter. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What did you make of Tyson's videos, especially the ones which obviously tagged you?
I'm baffled. Like, he was out celebrating. I don't know, like, he could have fought Usyk and then Joshua for so much money, but wanted an interim fight. But Tyson's brilliant at the bluster. 1 minute he's saying Joshua is a coward for stepping aside, then he's an idiot for not stepping aside, the worst businessman of all time. But as I always said, to get that deal done, 4 people had to be on board. And we never got to that stage because, 1, we didn't get to long form agreements, but 2, Tyson Fury decided he didn't want to fight Usyk next. And I spoke to Alex Krasuk last night, and he's frustrated because he doesn't understand. I saw he put a post out today about it, he doesn't understand why Fury wouldn't just go straight into an Usyk fight. Joshua would. He did it before, and guess what? He'll do it again.
Man, promoter aside, forget about the relationship you have with AJ. When you consider just how tough of a defeat that was against Usyk, he's bringing a new trainer in. From your perspective, Eddie, would it be wise of him to step aside, to have an interim fight, especially with a new trainer, or do you think it is personally best for him to go straight in with Usyk?
I think there is an argument to say that you may be better prepared after an interim fight with a new trainer, and for a lot more money. But I think one of the things you said was, I'll beat him with no trainer. That's the mindset of a fighter. But sometimes it's the responsibility of a team to have a sensible conversation. But you can't, it's like Fury. You can't have a sensible conversation with him because he just goes, right, and he makes up his own mind. And if you left it to AJ, he wouldn't even talk to you about another fight. Do you know what I mean? They're fighters, Andy. They want, it's pride. All AJ wants to do is get his hands on Usyk. But yes, is your answer. Of course, to have a fight with a new training team or environment first would be a sensible option. Sensible is something that we don't really see in boxing. But he's more than happy to go straight in. And by the looks of things, he will be.
I mean, likely it is, Eddie. By the time we've done this, something else will have happened in the heavyweight mix.
Yeah, good chance. I mean, by the time you put this video out, I don't know, maybe someone's changed their mind, maybe we've done a deal, anything. But people get frustrated by that. Should have learned by now. That's boxing. And it is very complicated because you're dealing with people who don't always take the right advice.
Can I ask you what, in principle, the deal was, or what was discussed between all parties in terms of the step aside and what have you?
Just really what's pretty much been documented, which is AJ has an interim bout, Fury fights Usyk straight away, and then the winner fights AJ. And Dillian Whyte would have to. The WBC element was the tricky part when that came in, because that second fight, Dillian Whyte would have to fight for the WBC title against the next available contender or whoever, rather than, so it was very messy. But we were making good progress until, everything changed, and things can change all the time.
Away from that, sticking with heavyweight division, Filip Hrgović, again, he doesn't have an opponent. Can you just tell me what's going on there?
So with Hrgović, Tony Yoka agreed to the fight, but apparently Tony Yoka has a contract to fight Martin Bakole. And Martin Bakole came out and said, no, you can't fight Hrgović because you've got a contract to fight me. Then it went to Murat Gassiev, who I think has pulled out. Now it just keeps on going down the list. And eventually I think we'll get to Zhilei Zhang, who is our guy, who will take the fight. And that's how it could end up.
We spoke about Mairis Briedis yesterday, Eddie. He's put out a diss track now to Jake Paul. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I just want to, if you have seen it, have you?
I scrolled past it, but refused to open it.
So there's no point in me asking you more on it.
I mean, I don't.
Kalle Sauerland, or one of the Sauerlands, I don't know who, but the Sauerland Twitter account has very much been on the charge on Twitter this morning, saying that the one Briedis Paul, and I imagine jokingly saying Jake Paul's a tougher fight than Lawrence Okolie.
Yeah. I've got no comments for you on that one. I don't know what's going on. We concentrate on Okolie Sislak, which is a real fight and a really tough fight.
After that one, obviously you had Taylor Serrano, and as you say, great fight. Finally got over the line, Eddie. MSG April 30th. How excited are you for that?
So excited. I mean, look, our February and March schedule is unbelievable, and April, May and June is lining up to be twice as good. And that's the first fight announced for April. It's a proud moment because it's what we've been working towards for so long. No one's more dedicated as a promoter towards women boxing than myself. No one moves a female fighter better. No one pays a female fighter better for the big fights. And that is the epitome of the big female fight. Everything we work towards. And the world will stop on April 30th and watch two of the all-time greats battle it out. The undisputed lightweight world champion against a 7-division world champion at the main arena at Madison Square Garden with myself, with Jake. It's going to be massive. Trust me, this fight is going to be so big. Press conference, I think, Wednesday next week at Madison Square Garden, and then London on Monday the week after with Jake and everybody. And he'll do a great job promoting it. You know, I saw some of his stuff last night, and I think it's going to be a massive fight.
Who's a better talker, Eddie, you or Jake?
Jake Paul, definitely. It's different kind of levels of talk, isn't it? It's slightly, I think, geared towards a slightly different age group and audience. I mean, look, I said in an interview earlier, sometimes I watch him and think, you are a right plonker. And he won't mind that, because I'm sure he, deep down, what you always see with him is not what you get. But he's very bright, I think he's good for boxing, and he helped get this fight made. And with him, with this, I think a lot of, when you do a co-promotion, there's so many promoters that don't like me out there, it's kind of like, then the heart's not really in it. Do you know what I mean? They're looking at me going, oh, fucking make this fight. Oh, I can't stand him. Whereas Jake, whatever he thinks of me, he's just thinking about how do we make this fight as big as possible. And I love that. I'm all in for that. So let him do his crazy stuff. Let him do what he wants. Collectively, we'll be there on April 30th, looking around at what we helped be a part of, and what we are being a part of is historic. It's the biggest fight in female boxing, and it's one of the most important moments of all time in boxing, not female boxing. Wait and see how big this is.
Final one, Eddie, haven't done it in a couple of months. Some Friday motivation?
Friday motivation is bring on the aggravation, bring on the trouble. I'm spinning 30 or 40 plates a day. Could be signing new fighters, could be who we're going to pick for a fighter's debut, could be a British title purse bid, could be a heavyweight world championship purse bid tonight, could be a new TV deal in another territory, could be AJ's next fight, could be flying out to America to see Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, could be getting ready to go in Phoenix next week, could be going on sale for this today and this press conference. Bring on the challenges, bring on the aggravation, because if you're not, and I know it's nice to be nice, right? And I know we have to worry about people's feelings these days, and I'm a big believer and a big advocate in mental health, emotion, all that stuff, but there has to be an element of toughness where you dust yourself down, you wake up in the morning and say, let's fucking have it. And that's where we're at right now.
Eddie, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks, Peter Boxing Social.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ed.